This conference will
Good.
now be
Okay.
recorded.
So we are in Shar HaTshuva, the gate of return, Perek Vav, the sixth chapter. So in Sepharia, it'll be 761. Okay, sixth chapter, the very beginning, and let us get rolling over here. Okay. Ofen ha'ara yiyeh le'echad me'arba'a dvarim. What pushes a person to do teshuva? What pushes a person to say, either I've got to stop doing the things that I know I'm not supposed to be doing, or I've got to step up a little bit. I've got to up my game and start doing some things that I have not yet been doing. So he's going to give four illustrations, we can call it, four situations. Hello, Carol, how are you? Good to have you with us. And actually, why don't we learn, Carol had a yard site on Sunday. Let's learn in honor and in memory of Liba Leah Bas Avraham, and also our dear friend Bernard Hutz also had a yard site on Sunday, and that is Le'ilei Nishmas Baruch ben David. Okay, so we just started 761 in Sepharia, which is the sixth chapter of Shar HaTeshuva, 10 chapters altogether. And he's going to now lay out for us, there are four situations, he says, that will bring a person to Teshuva, a person to getting back to doing what they know they should be doing, or to stop doing what they know they should not be doing. And he says, Arba'a, one of four matters, one of four venues, we'll call it. Ha'echad, number one, Mechozek hakarat ha'adam et elokav. A person having a strengthened, a heightened awareness of God. Interesting, et elokav, of his God, his or her God. I think that's important, right? That God is not this concept floating somewhere out there in the universe, but it is my God. Very beautifully when we say the Adon Olam, which goes through, right? It's one of the songs we sing at the end of davening, and it goes through the basics. But I love Master of the Universe, who reigned before any form was created, right? After all has ceased to be, he will reign alone, right? He will remain in all of his splendor. He is one, nothing compared to him, nothing could be his equal, without a beginning, without an end. He is all the power. He is the dominion, right? This incredibly powerful world God. And then what do we say? V'hu Eli, v'chai go'ali. He is my God. V'chai go'ali. He is the redeemer of my life. V'tzur chevli, and the rock of my pain. Be'es tzara, when I'm in a time of distress. V'hu nisi, umanos li. He is my banner. He is my refuge. Minat kosi, the portion of my cup. B'yom ekra, when I call out to him. So we start off describing God as this universal God, but what's most important is, V'hu Eli v'chai go'ali. He is my God, meaning he cares about me. He's involved with me. He is there with me. And that is what he says over here, Mechozek hakaras adam, from a strengthening, a heightened recognition that a person has, es elokav, of not of God, of his or her God, of that relationship that we have and that we are meant to have with Hashem. Ubechinato. And how is it that I start to feel that this is my God? I think that's a book by Herman Wouk, right? This is my God, right? How does one start to feel this Elokav? This is my God. Ubechinato, we had a whole shar habechina. We had a whole gateway of bechina, of focusing, of looking into, of appreciating all that goes on around us, all that goes on inside of us. Ubechinato, and this introspection, pahat madat tovato alav, just how much good God is giving to me. God has given to me. God is giving to me. With all of the things that we might wish we have in life, we're healthy, we can see, we can hear, we can talk, we can move. The amount that we would pay in order to restore any of these faculties that God is giving us every moment it's just astronomical if we were to place a price tag on any one of these things, much less all of these things. So when a person has this recognition, this is my God. God is doing so much for me. And one recognizes Hatmadat Tovato Alav, the constant good that God is giving to us. Umashu Chayav Aleha. And therefore, what is it that I am now Chayav? Okay, good. Robin is here. Just can't get her camera
Sorry about
working.
that.
Good.
Keep going.
Good. And you can hear us. Good, Robin.
I hear you.
Good. Esther, I assume you're also able to hear us and are with us. Good. So when a person focuses on this hatmadat tovato, on this so much goodness, umashu chayav aleha, and therefore the least I can do, if God is doing all of this for me, the least I can do is that which he asks of me to do for my own benefit. The least I can do is what he asks me to do for my own benefit. Umashu chayav aleha. And what I need to do, obligated to do, me'avodato, from serving God, ushmor mitzvotav, and observing the mitzvot, v'hizaher mimashi is here, and being careful to stay away from that which, God has warned me, advised me, warned me not to do. V'hu, and he is like ke'eved haboreach me'adonav. And here he gives an example. He's gonna compare each of these four situations to an eved, a servant who runs from his master. And at least to me, that parallel, I don't know, it doesn't work so well for me. So I'm going to substitute that for a teenager who runs away from home, who's got good, loving parents, who have their demands, have their do's and don'ts. There are the rules of the household. And this teenager runs away from home. Kashuhu choshev b'tov asher gemalo. When this person who runs away, again, his example is the servant who ran from the master. But I don't think I don't relate so well to the servant-master relationship. But let's say the teenager who runs from home, when he realizes b'tov asher gemalo, how good he had it at home, how good his parents were to him, how much they were taking care of him, and even the things that they had to, so to speak, discipline or not allow him to have, he realizes that was actually for his own benefit. Yashuv elav lirtzono. So then that person will return willingly, will sheepishly come back home, knocking on the door, levakesh mimena mechila, and ask for forgiveness. Al ma shekodem lo mehamruto, from that his the previous behavior, how they were rebelling so harshly, so strongly against the parents. Ubarcho me'avodaso, and they're running away from their from home and from the responsibilities that come along with being at home. But they realize just how good the parents were, and they come back. V'hu ha'eved hamafik derech hatova u'mevin netiv ha'hatzala. And this situation, again, his example is a servant, that is the best possible way to return. And one who understands the pathway that will lead to success. And the parents in that situation will certainly forgive and forget and re-embrace that child. And that when we are like that child, coming back to Hashem, recognizing just how much good God is constantly giving to us, and we say, okay, I've got to return home. That's what Teshuva is, returning home. I've got to raise my game a little bit over here and show my appreciation. That is the grade A return that a person can make. Ubekamo nemar, and about that, the verse says in Yirmiyahu, Im tashuv Yisroel nu'um Hashem, if Israel will return, says Hashem, if they will return, meaning that they want to return based on their own initiative, Elai tashuv, to me they will return, they will have that closeness to me. Ratzalama, meaning, im tashuv lirtzoncha, if you are returning based on your own decision, kodem bo ha'onash alecha, before any difficulties come your way that are pushing you, as we'll soon see, but you're doing it just because you recognize, you have this recognition, this internal recognition that I really need to do more. Ekabel teshuvatcha, I will accept, Hashem says, your teshuva, ve'evchar b'cha la'avodati, and I will choose you for my service. Ve'im tasir shikutzayich mipanai, if you will remove the different thorns and the abominations, so to speak, from before me, velo tanud, and not budge from that, but do it in a resolute, firm, lasting manner. Velo tivrach me'avodati, you will not flee from my service. Uvinishbat bishmi be'emet, and you will only swear in my name with absolute truth and integrity. V'libcha lashruv elai be'emunah, and your heart will want to return to me be'emunah, in a faithful, trusted manner. Yitbaruchu b'cha goyim, then the nations will find, you will be lifted up back to your high point of the way you will be viewed, and the Yitbaruchu b'cha goyim, the nations will bless that, oh, you should be like so-and-so, you should be like Israel. Uvecha yithalelu, and in you they will find favor. V'atshuva kol hatzanaim hi ma she'amar, and that's all the conditions that we mentioned. V'yitbaruchu vo goyim vo yithalelu, v'akavanah b'cha, right? They will have this pride in you. You will be elevated. V'amar Malachi says, Shuvu elai v'ashuva eleichem. Return to me, and I will return to you. So that is the highest level of teshuva. One didn't have a crisis in life. One didn't see other people having a crisis in life. one just looked at their life and said, wow, God, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are so good to me. Thank you, Hashem. I'll just share, we had wonderful news this morning that emitted a tremendous thank you, Hashem, for the Ciner family, that our son-in-law Eliezer, got his acceptance to medical school for next year. So we were thrilled.
Mazel tov.
Yeah, yeah. We were thrilled. And when you get put on the waiting lists, the tension really really eats at you. And we didn't want to ask our kids to add more pressure to them. They were already feeling the pressure, but I was just so happy. Baruch Hashem. So the highest level of teshuva is when we recognize, God, you are so good to me. Right? Without there being a crisis, without there being this, just thank you, Hashem. Let me see what more I can do to show that I appreciate that it is you, God, running this world, and you've been so good and so gracious to me. That is grade A. V'hasheni, grade B. Be'et shetavo tochacha tabora yitbarach. When a person gets the rebuke coming from God. Bahachlamato al roa ma'asav mifalav. And the person feels a little bit embarrassed, disgraced by their actions. Bein al yidei navi doro im yebizman hanavua. Whether this happens via a prophet during those times in our history, up until the start of the Second Temple, where we still had prophecy, O mitorat Hashem hane'emana, or from the Torah of Hashem, which is the true Torah of Hashem, O mipi mora lavodat elokim, or from a guidance, rebuke, or just guidance from a person who is showing avodat elokim, trying to teach others about serving Hashem. Asher hu tanat habore al bruav, which is a way that God sends his message al bruav, to his creations. It could be through a navi, it could be through a friend, it could be through a rebbe, a rabbi, it could be through a mentor, it could be through a teacher. Right? These are all messages that come. There was a legendary Maggid. Maggid is a person who would speak and inspire and uplift, known as the Maggid of Yerushalayim, Rav Teshuva-Return, Zatzal of blessed memory. And the books, if you've seen the series of the Maggid Speaks, the Maggid this, the Maggid that, written by Rabbi Pesach Krohn. So the first one was all about Rav Teshuva-Return. And I heard him say a number of times, and I've taken this to heart. He said, when you're speaking, if something pops into your head that's relevant, so then you should say it. Because it didn't just pop into your head. The reason it popped into your head is that someone there needs to hear it. And that's why it popped into your head. So make sure that you share that idea, that thought that popped into your head. Right? And very often, I'm sure you've had this also, but when I speak publicly or the shul, wherever it is, someone comes to say to me, Rabbi, how did you know? How did you know what to talk about? That's what I needed to hear. And I don't know. I don't know anything. Right? But Hashem guides us, and Hashem sends through different people words that we are meant to hear. And that is the second level. The ein dor min adorot reik mimenu. There is no generation that is empty of this, that doesn't have this. Not one generation. In every generation, there are those that will say to you what you need to hear, and if you will take it to heart, then you will. It will help every single one of us in our teshuva, in our, like I keep saying, in our raising our game a bit. As our sages said, one of bracha, Ad shelo kavsa shimsho shel Moshe Zarcha Shimshon Shel Yoshua Talmido. Before the light, the sun, so to speak, of Moshe was extinguished, Yehoshua started to shine. Ad Shelo Kavsa Shimshon Shel Eli. Eli was the Kohen Gadol when the Mishkan was in Shiloh. The Mishkan, the tabernacle, stood in Shiloh. This is before, of course, the building of the Beis Hamikdash of the temple. It was in Shiloh for 369 years. And the Kohen Gadol there was Eli, and the famous story of Eli and Chana. Chana came davening for her son. Right? Eli gave her a bracha, and that son was Shmuel, and Shmuel took over after Eli. So before the son of Eli was extinguished, Zarcho Shimsho Shel Shmuel Aramati. Then Shmuel Hanavi, Shmuel Aramasi, he then ascended, and he was the leader. Ad Shelo Kavsa Shimsho Shel Eliyahu, Zarcho Shimsho Shel Elisha. Before Eliyahu left the scene, Elisha was there to step into that role. And the day that Rabbi Akiva died, that was the day that Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, was born. And this is the case in every generation and in all the lands. There'll always be someone who will call out to God, call out in favor of serving Hashem, and teach his Torah. V'ashav hazeh, and a person who returns in this sort of situation is like shebarach me'avodas adonav. Once again, the servant who ran from his master. I like to go with the teenager who ran away from the chores, the responsibilities that one had at home. Upaga even nemel adonav, and encountered got a servant who is faithful to the master. Right? Or let's say he gets a phone call from his brother, Vochicho, and the brother says to him, "What are you doing? Al barcho me'adonav, why'd you run away?" V'yatzoto, and advises him, convinces him, argues with him. Lashuv elav, to go back home. V'hivticho, and let him know, Mom and Dad, sheyimcholo, right? They will forgive you. Come back home. V'izkiro rov tov asav, and the brother reminds, this brother ran away, of all of the good that his parents have been doing, are willing to do, are constantly doing. The chasadav elav, all their kindness to him. V'shav elav v'nichna elav, and he returns, and he somewhat sheepishly returns home, and humbles himself before his parents, and comes back home. So that is grade B. V'hashlishi, grade C. When he sees really tough things happening to other people. Yivaser bo, he'll realize, gosh, life is serious. Life can really take a really harsh turn. Things can really, really go bad, right? And, right, we don't control these things, right? We can try to control these things. We don't control these things. Things happen beyond our control. And the person says, wow, I better get my house in order. And he's returning to Hashem out of a certain degree of fear. I don't want that to happen to me. What can I do, or what should I do to make sure that I am in God's good graces? And he compares that once again, I'm not crazy about his example. I don't think it relates so much to the servant and the master, right? But the kid who runs away from home, and then he sees other runaways, and he sees what situation they're in, and they're on the streets and turning to drugs, or turning to whatever, selling, whatever it might be, right? Where it could lead to. Viva serbo, and the person will think, wow, right? That's the path that I'm on. That's not where I want to go. V'yashu michanin al adonav, and the child will go running back home and saying, Mom and Dad, I'm sorry, please, right? I'd like to come back home. I'll do whatever it is that you're asking of me to do in the house. Of course, the parents are asking nothing too overly demanding, but I'd like to come back, right? Because the child sees just what happened to so many others who ran from home thinking of the glory and ended up on the streets. And on that, the pasuk says, "Lo takia artzetchem v'tamechem oto kasher ka'at hagoy asher lifnechem." We have this idea that other nations were warned that when we enter the land of Israel, don't do those lowly, despicable acts of immorality, of idolatry, so the land will not literally, lahaki, will not vomit you out, as it did to the inhabitants that were there before you. So therefore, look around and see what happened to others as a result of their actions, and therefore a person can decide to up their game. V'harivi'i, and the fourth one, bivo onesh haborei alav, v'min limine hatsaros. When life starts to go awry, and things start to unravel, and things really get rough in life, either to ourselves, whether it's in health, whether it's in relationships, whether it's to those close to us. When things really start to go away in life, that life hurts and life is really painful. When a person feels that, we always say that there's no atheist in a foxhole, as the expression goes, right? That when a person is in a pained situation, in a down and out situation, then the person starts to call out to Hashem and recognize that I'm in God's hands, and the only one who can change things is God, and therefore a person says, "Okay, let me return, let me draw close." Ne'or ve'kitz mishinato. Person then wakes up from their slumber, v'shav el Elokim mechatao, and they return to Hashem. V'hi hu ke'eved haborech me'rabo. Once again, the servant running from the master, or the teenager running from home. Sheshalach elav mishmi asrenu v'yanenu al barcho me'avodaso. And then all of a sudden, this person finds themselves in very, very dire straits, in a very, very difficult, dangerous, trying situation. The kasher higia elav barach el adonav. And then the child runs back home, and looks to return and be back at home, be back in the loving embrace of the parents. And about them it says in Mishlei, Bevo kishoa pachtechem ve'eidchem kasufa yata. When the Shoah, right? We use the term Shoah for the Holocaust. Shoah is a term that we have in Navi, and it means catastrophe. And that's what we refer to the Holocaust as Ha-Shoah, the catastrophe, because just how catastrophic it was. So when it comes like a catastrophe, pachtechem ve'eitchem kasufa yata, like a storm wind, it comes at you. When pain and anguish and difficulties come your way, az yikraunani, then you will call out to me. And if you're only going to be calling out with this lip service, not from your heart, but just from your lips, so to speak, v'lo aneh. Hashem will not answer unless we're calling out really from the heart. V'amar, and it says in Divrei Yamim, kehitzar lo chila pnei Hashem elokav v'yikana ma'od. This is incredible. This is about King Menashe. Menashe was one of the kings of Judah, of Yehuda, and Menashe had put an idol into the Holy of Holies. Imagine putting an avodah zarah, putting an idol into the Holy of Holies, and then he was taken captive and he was being tortured, and then when he was at the very end, kehatzarlo, when he was in such anguish, chila et pnei Hashem elokav, then he called out to Hashem, his God, vayikana ma'od, and he fully humbled himself. And we say that his teshuvah was accepted. Now it's very interesting because in Navi, we have the recount that's in the book of Kings, in Shmuel Aleph, Shmuel Bet, and Kings. And then we also have the recount that's in Divrei Hayam in the book of Chronicles. And the book of Chronicles goes through the lineage from Adam and Eve all the way until the end of the Davidic dynasty with the destruction of the temple. And in Divrei Hayamim, that's where we hear about his teshuvah. In the book of Kings, we don't hear about his teshuvah. And an explanation that I heard, right? And on one hand, we say his teshuvah was accepted, and we say his teshuvah was not accepted. And the book of Kings is about a king. As a king, he misled the people. And great, he did teshuvah, but look at all the destruction that he left in his wake. And for that, he cannot be forgiven. Right? We say if a person is chotei umachti acherim, person sins and causes others to sin, then his teshuvah can't be fully accepted. Right? This person caused others to sin, then he's going to do teshuvah, and everyone else is going to be held responsible for their misdeeds. So that's the book of Kings we're talking about on a national level. But in the book of Divrei Hayam, in the Chronicles, they were going through more of an individual level. And he, as an individual, he did teshuvah, which will be accepted as far as himself. But in terms of the havoc that he wreaked and the harm that he caused, that already his teshuvah can't, unless he would do a mass teshuvah movement and all those that he misled, he will bring them back under the kanfei hashchina, as we say, under the wings of God's providence. But short of that, then he can't be forgiven. But that was a case where a person was at their very, very end, and they called out to Hashem, and if it is sincere and heartfelt, then it is accepted. We always like to compare it. Hashem is a very, very loving parent. And even if a parent has become estranged from a child, the child wants to return and comes back, the parent is happy to reconnect and re-embrace with that child. Bamatzliach. So these are the four different prompts, four different avenues which lead towards teshuvah. Either the person recognizes all the good that God has given him or her and wants to reconnect in a more profound way. That was one. Number two is the person gets a stern talking to and recognizes and raises their game. Or one sees a lot of pain elsewhere and says, I better raise my game. Or one experiences their own pain and says, I better raise my game. V'matzliach. Now, the most successful, the chosen, the best way is Hashav el Elokim b'fanim harishonim. Those who choose path number A. They just focus on the blessings God has given them and says, what more can I do for you, Hashem? The Tachtav, next in line, Batzlacha u'v'kibul. Batzlacha, next in line in the success of that teshuva, ubikibul, and it's being accepted, is mishalo shavat sheba so tochachas habore behem hapanim hashniyim, right? That the person got a little bit of a rebuke from God via whichever emissary God might have sent it. Tachtehem batzlacha b'kibul, and third underneath that, in the success and how well it's accepted, mishlo shavat shechala ra'al svivav, the person did not do tshuva until he saw some serious problems going on around and recognized, wow, that's happening to them and that's not happening to me. Wow, Hashem, let me see what I can do. The tachtav, and lastly, b'kibul hachazara, mishlo shavat shechala lav ha'onesh v'niyasebo. A person only did teshuva once their life went somewhat off the tracks. That is the least preferred, the most distant manner of returning, that Hashem will accept the teshuva and forgive. But when a person returns to Hashem, even in those situations, and Hashem sees that there is the true regret, v'ha'aziva, right? These are the four levels that we spoke about. There is true regret, v'ha'aziva, and the person has stopped doing what they should not be doing or started doing what they're supposed to be doing. Ubakashata mechila, and number 3 was they asked for forgiveness. Bilibo, in their heart, ubil shono, and with their mouth, uvetnu osav, right, and with their actions, meaning that they have resolved not to continue with that. Ma sheyichayev limcholo, to the degree that a person will be deserving of this forgiveness. Ulakabel teshuvato, and Hashem will accept his teshuva. V'la'avor al pesha'av, and the person's previous pathway misdeeds will be overlooked, will be pushed aside. So ideally, each person needs to look at all of the brachot, all of the blessings that Hashem is giving us each and every moment. Every moment our heart is beating, the blood is pumping, and we're alive and kicking, we're healthy, and there is so much to be thankful for in our lives. And I was listening to a shiur by Rav Yitzchak Berkovitz, right? And it was a question and answer, very interesting stuff. And someone said, when God doesn't answer our prayers, I get upset, right? And it's not a slot machine. I pray and God does. He's not working for us. He's not there. We're used to everything on demand. That's not how it works, right? But if a person will have that emunah, focus on all the things that we have, a great line that I've shared before. Imagine if the only things we would wake up with tomorrow are the things that we expressed appreciation for today, right? Imagine that. And if we won't have it tomorrow, we didn't appreciate, right? Then we realize just how much we should have been appreciating that. So the ideal is to focus on all the blessings that we have and say, Hashem, you've been so incredibly good to me and to my family, right? What more can I do? And see what more we can do, and try to build an even closer, more fulfilling relationship with Hashem. Okay, my friends, good. So we're getting easy on finding the place. So next week's, it's 771 that we've concluded the 6th chapter, and we'll pick up there next week, Bezrat Hashem, with God's help. Okay, good seeing everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, those who can make it tomorrow morning, 9:30, we have our Parsha class. Okay.
Thank you.